Welcome to Computer Science Principles. Follow along with the curriculum at bjc.edc.org. Unit 3, Lists. Lab 2, page 4, Improving Your Contact List App. Okay, so back into the curriculum, Unit 3, Lists. This time we're in Lab 2, Improving Your Contact List App. So if there is time, load your contact list app from before. It should be U3L2 contact list. Real contacts apps have a lot more information than just a name and a phone number. So you need to modify get new contact so that each contact includes a name, an address, phone number in that order. There is already a get address block in that project. Edit it so that you can use it as you modify get new contact. Okay, so this was the U3L2 contact list project. Just to refresh our memory, we have when I am clicked, and this is the add contact button. What it's going to do is it's going to set the contact list to whatever the contact list was plus this new get new contact information in front of that original list. And then it's going to say click here to enter a new contact after it's done that. So let's take a look inside get new contact, edit. So get new contact reported a list with get name and get phone. So it gave a list into here of get name and get phone. And inside get name, there were these two questions, get the answer to first name and get the answer to last name, and put them as two items in a list. So okay, that's how get name worked. Get phone just basically asked the question, what is the phone number, and reported that. So the get new contact reported a list with two primary buckets, even though there was a get name is in itself a list because it has first name and last name in there. But what we need to do is we need to add the address in here as well. So let's just check the order. It said it wanted to so that each contact includes a name, an address, and a phone number in that order. Name, address, and phone number. Well, this is going to get the name. The address needs to go in the middle, get address, and then phone number. So it already said that we had the custom block for get address, which is inside sensing. Here it is. So I'm going to drop that in there. Now let's just take a quick look at get address. Let's see what it has. So for get address, it has report, a list, and then it has street address, apartment number, city, state, zip, and country. And it's saying that block doesn't work yet because what's going to happen is there is no variable here. For every time somebody enters a new contact, it's just going to say that their address is street address, apartment number, city, state, zip, and country. Block doesn't work yet. It's just going to say that. So look at the difference. This is what we have with this get address block, and when we looked at get phone number block, look at the difference. So here it's reporting the answer to this question. So it's retrieving an answer from the user. Or if we look at get name, it's still retrieving two answers from the user and putting it in a list. So it looks like what we need to do is we need to have a question for each of these. So if I duplicate this, duplicate it and put it over here, let's cancel these ones out. And let's just focus on the get address. Now, the first bit should ask for street address. So let's do this the quickest possible. It's not gonna look necessarily too pretty, but I'm gonna put in street address question mark, and then let's drag that in. Now the next one, duplicate, is gonna be apartment number. So let's take that out, put it in here, apartment number question mark. Then let's duplicate, and then let's ask for city. City question mark. Okay, and then let's ask for state. So all I'm doing is replacing each of these text strings that are inside this list with this question retrieval mini system, which is asking for each of these pieces of data. And then what it's doing is it's waiting for an answer. And then when it's got the answer, then it's filling up this entry in the list before it reports it. So I'm going to duplicate the last one, and then here country. I'm not going to take everything else. I'm just going to take country, this, and then not zip. I need the word country. Okay, cut it, paste it, question mark, and then drag it in to replace that text. So basically right now, the get address is going to ask for each of these. Oh, zip is missing here. So zip question mark. Okay, so zip question mark, and then all of that looks good. Okay, so at each step of the way, it's asking for these items, and then it's going to report that in a list in the get address. So I'm going to press apply and OK. Let's just make sure everything's in the right place inside this get new contact. All right, so maybe I didn't save it before, but the address should live right in the middle. So get new contact needs to have get name, get address, and get phone. Let's apply it this time. I think I forgot to apply it last time. Let's go into edit, make sure everything's there. It is, so that's all good. And let's press OK. Now let's clear the list so that we don't have these different types of rows here, some with lists and some with the address and others without. So I've just cleared everything, and we're going to set the list to blank. Let's just press the stop to wipe out the board. So let's now add a new contact. So first name, Matt. Okay, last name, Hill. Street address, 123 Main Street. Apartment number, apartment 3. City is going to be New York. State is New York. Zip 10001. What is their phone number? 123 456 7890. So now that whole contact is added, and you'll see that the first, if I go into get new contact right here, the first item in this row is the get name, which is a list. And if I double click, you'll see that there's two items, the first name and last name, that are contained in this first primary bucket. Inside the get address, which is in column B, you'll see that there's all of this data here. Now I'm wondering, did it ask me for the country? I'm not seeing a country in there. So maybe I just pressed enter twice. So let me go back into get address. Let's edit this. Let's take a look. Country is being asked right here. Answer to question country. So you know what? Let me just try that one more time for the add contact, and let's choose someone else. So Barry, Hope, street address 456 Union Street, apartment number 5, city, let's say Boston, and the state would be Massachusetts, and zips, I'm not sure the zips from Boston, but let's say 20346. Okay, country, so it did ask for country, so US, United States. What is their phone number? Okay, all right, so it was working all well. It was just that I mustn't have put in a, I must have pressed enter twice and put in a blank country for the first one. Okay, and so in this one here, we do have all of the bits of information. So this is the street, this is the apartment number, the city, the state, the zip, and the country. And the same also for the first entry that I put in. It's just missing the country because I just pressed enter twice. So it is capturing everything that I need. And here you can see it's just a value. Here you can see it's a list in each of these columns as well. All right, so it looks like that's all fixed up. So when I unclick that, this has now been updated, and it now does capture the street addresses as well. Okay, so the next thing, it says clear your contact list and add a few entries. Well, we've just done that. So number 4, try your phone number of block again. Does it still work? Why not? You could fix the problem, but as we add more complexity to contacts, birthdays and spouse and work address and so on, the location of the phone number within a contact might keep changing. This is where an abstract data type helps. Instead of fixing every block that uses the phone number each time you move the phone number contact in the list, you can define one selector block that knows where in the list the phone number is and use that in all other blocks that need to know. So this is what that's talking about. Because we added in the address in column 2, which is column B, because we added all of this stuff in, it meant that the telephone number is no longer the second item of these. So when we're trying to find Let's see who was the first person. First person was Barry Hope. So if we try and find phone number of Barry, and remember we can just put BAR, when we try and find that phone number, it's now returning phone number. It's now returning everything in the second item for Barry. So that's a problem because we needed the phone number, which is now in the third column. So what this lab is talking about is there's a way using an abstract data type to always know where that column is, what the number of the column is. And so this is in association with defining one selector block that helps identify where it is, and then use that selector block in all of the blocks that need to know. So it says here, if there is time, create an abstract data type. Okay, so to start, write a constructor block for the contact type that looks like this. Contact with name list, so that's the list for the name, first name and last name, the address list, and then phone number. Okay, so we're going to create this right now. Contact with name, address, and phone. Okay, so let me just move these things down so we got more room in the middle. Okay, so right here I'm going to create it, make a block, operator. It's a reporter block, so contact with name, and then address. So I'm doubling these words because I'm going to turn name and address into fields, into inputs in a moment. And then the last one was telephone number. All right, so if I press OK, so the name itself was an input, was a list. Okay, the address itself was a list. And then the telephone number is just a number. We could have it as text in case they put dashes, but that's what we're creating right now. We just leave it like this for now. So I'm on my way with that. Let's go back to the lab. And it says it should report a contact, still a list of 3 items. So it's reporting the 3 items. And it says note that it takes the 3 items as inputs, but doesn't ask the user to enter the information. The block will be used in get new contact, but it doesn't do the entire job of get new contact. So it's going to be used in get new contact, but it's not going to do the whole job. So right now we're back in this contact constructor block, and if we remember correctly, it's going to report a list with these 3 values. It's going to report the 3 values. So it's reporting a list. So let's go and grab list and with the 3 values. Okay, so keep remembering a constructor block is just something that helps us abstract and helps us report something with a label that we're going to understand. So in this case, contact name with all of these things really just needs to report a list of all of these things. So I'm going to drop in the name into the first item of the list, the address into the second item, and the telephone number into the third. I'm going to press apply and OK, and now I'm going to go look for that. So contact name with these 3 things. Now keep in mind that it's not asking for any of these three things, but whatever is placed in these things, it's going to then report, it's going to then hold on to that information. Okay, so we're reminded here to note that it takes the 3 items as inputs, but doesn't ask the user for the information. This block will be used in get new contact, but it doesn't do the entire job of get new contact. So then it says number 6, rewrite get new contact to use this constructor. So let's go back. So we're going to edit get new contact. So that's right here. And we need to edit it to use this. So the list itself, if I duplicate this, send it in there, is going to be replaced. So a list reports a list. And this contact with name, address, and telephone number is also reporting a list. And then these things, the get name should go there, the get address should go there, and the get phone should go there. I can now scrap this list. So basically it's reporting a list, but instead of calling it a list, we've called it the contact with name, address, and telephone number. And at each point when it tries to get this value, it knows to ask the question, what's your name? What's your first name? What's your second name? What's your address? What's the first line of the address? What's the apartment number? What's the city, state, zip, country? And then also phone number. What's the phone number? So I'm going to press apply on that and then press OK. Let's go back. So it now says, now write 2 new selector blocks. Each of them should take a contact as an input and report the right piece of that contact. So the 2 selector blocks that we were asked to create were contact address. So contact address. It was a reporter block. It was operator. Okay, now we also need an input. So let's just call this contact. This input was going to be a list because each contact is really a list with 3 items, 3 primary buckets, even though first name, last name live in one primary bucket. Address, all those layers of the address live in another. But it's really a list, so I'm going to select list. Okay. And then what we need this thing to do is we need to retrieve whichever piece of information that we need. So at the moment, we want it to report the, in this one, contact address from the contact needs to report the, currently it's the second item, but this is where it gets a little messy. So currently it's the second item from list. So that should report the second item from list. So I'm going to press apply and then OK. I'm going to go grab that from the bottom of operators. And then the next thing was get the telephone number. So operator, reporter, telephone number. Press OK. And again, this is grabbing it from the contact, which is also a list. Okay. And so what this is doing is it's the telephone number currently lives in item 3. So let's go there, item 3 of contact. So apply it and OK. But this is still giving me the problem that what happens if the column number changes, if we add new bits of information here and then the telephone number is no longer in item 3, or if the address is no longer in item 2. In all of this confusion, let's just step back a second and let's think what's happening. Well, we have a form, add contact, that asks a series of questions, first name, last name, address line 1, address line 2, and telephone number, etc. We have a form asking for that. That is triggered right here in get new contact. Now, get new contact includes this constructor block, contact with name, address, and telephone. It's right here. This is fed by this. So if we ended up adding something like date of birth, when we change it here, when we add a new field for date of birth, DOB, and then we do this, and then we add, if we were to add date of birth, and let's just say it's a number, input as a number, and press OK. If we add this now, then we would need to create a new thing, and then we would put a new item of the list. We would then put date of birth in there. If we apply it and press OK, look what just happened. Up here in the get new contact, it is now automatically updated this to include a request for the date of birth, and then we can include in here a get date of birth question, which then feeds this. So that is what we would do. Now keep in mind that that all happened from changing it here within this contact with name, address, telephone number, and then now date of birth. So that all happened by changing it here. We changed the form and what questions people were being asked. And then also this contact address, so this contact with name is the constructor block. Now contact address is the selector block. Now here we've told it item 2 because we know the address is item 2 of this list. It's in the second place, so we know it's item 2. And likewise, we know the telephone number is item 3. Now if that was ever to change, let's say we put date of birth first, then everything would move up, including the telephone number would no longer be item 3, it would be item 4. So we would have to change it. But the beauty of these selector blocks and the constructor blocks is that for all of these changes, we would only have to change it once in this area. And if every other block that utilizes them uses these selector blocks or the constructor blocks, then they automatically update from these blocks right here in the middle. And so that's the beauty of this. So I removed the date of birth from the constructor block. I just reset that. So it says also check that the selectors that you've already written still work and fix them if needed. So let's take a look, the name display form and the name sorting form. So here are those two blocks they were talking about. So if I click on this, it says Matt Hill. Click a few more times, it does change to Barry Hope. There's only 2 entries, 2 contacts in my list. So it looks like it is displaying something at random. For name sorting form, again, it's showing the 2 names, and so it is working. Now, if we were worried about the first name and last name, so the first item of these lists moving over, maybe we're going to put a salutation Mr., Mrs., Miss in front. If we're ever worried about that changing, then inside here, we could include a selector block, just like we have selector blocks for contact address and telephone number. That is the single source of finding the location. Then we could actually create one for first name and last name, and we could reference this new selector block that we could create here, so that would be the single place to make the update as well. But at the moment, this is all working fine. So these green blocks, these operator blocks right in the middle are doing all the work. And this is the place where we just need to update position once and for all. So if we have 1 million of these blocks out there in the wild doing certain stuff, and then all of a sudden we need a new field in this table and everything gets shifted, all we would need to do is make the single change here in whichever selector block is necessary, or change the constructor block, and then it would accurately show what we needed it to do. Okay, so let's take a look back here. If there's time, rewrite the lookup blocks. So it says now you can rewrite the phone number block as shown below. So here's the block phone number of name, and we want it to report the contact phone of the contact info for name. So it says you'll write the red contact info block using the definition from your old phone number block, except that instead of extracting the phone number, it should report the entire contact, which is a list. So let's give that a shot right now. Okay, so number 9, it says now you can rewrite the phone number block as shown below. You'll write the red contact info block using the definition from your old phone number block, except that instead of extracting the phone number, it should report the entire contact, which is a list. So that's talking about this red section right here, contact info given the name. So let's try and make that happen right now. So contact info, so I'm making a block, contact info when given the name. So I'm going to say this is a variable, actually a list. It looks like it's dark red in there, and it's a reporter block. Name is going to be a variable, and this, it says to take the information from the old phone number of block. So if I edit this, then it wants all of this information to go in there. So I'm going to just duplicate it for now, click in there, close the old block. So let's think how I need to update this. Well, I see that there's 2 reports here. There's a report block here and here. So I always like to use fresh report blocks. So I'm going to grab this stuff, put it in there. Grab this, put it in there. Throw away the first one, put in the fresh one. So I'm just doing this because in the past sometimes Snap is a little buggy when it uses this. So far this is what we've got. Now it said, if I go back, it said except that instead of extracting the phone number, it should report the entire contact, which is a list. So this thing is going to report a list. So first of all, let's see what it does. It's trying to find out if after it's kept everything that's matched this rule, and the rule is it's trying to look for the display form of the name. Does it contain the text in the name being given? So if nothing is found that matches the text and the display form of the name, it's going to say not found. And if something is found where it matches that, now I'm just switching out the search text variable with the name variable. and that's just because here it's called name. And here what this is doing is it is returning item 2 of item 1 of this. So after it's got a list of all people that match that name, is looking at item 1. So there might only be one item on there, one contact, but item 1 is taking that contact on its own, and then item 2 before was returning the telephone number when the telephone number was the second item, but now currently the telephone number is the third item. But we don't need to report the telephone number, we want it to report the contact, the entire contact. So I'm going to pull this out, get rid of item 2, and push it back. So it's still only reporting one contact. So if there are multiple contacts with the same with the same matching of the name, then it's only going to take the very first one. Let's just look back, check that we were doing what it says. It says except that instead of extracting the phone number, it should report the entire contact, which is a list, and it does just say contact singular, so it does just want one of those. So this is looking like contact info name is doing everything that we're told. So it says another custom block with this name exists, would you like to replace it? So yeah, I must have been playing with that before. Now if I go back into try and find this, contact info is right here. So now when I type in, let's see, who do I have on this list? First one is Barry Hope. So if I search for Barry and then press, it should return the entire contact. So there it is. There's the entire contact for Barry, which is great. So that's working out how we expected it to. So now if I go back to this, it says now I need to take phone number of whatever the name is and report the contact phone, which we already created. That's a selector block of that. So report the contact phone of that. So if we go back, the contact phone number, which really we call telephone number over here, but if I duplicate that and put that here, now I could also go in here, telephone number, and edit it and just call it contact number. Contact number, or does it say contact phone? Let's try and match it up. Contact phone. So let's change this to phone. Okay, so here we've already stipulated that it's item number 3 of this contact, so that's great. So if I press OK here, so now if I check it with Barry, contact phone, and press it, we've now got Barry's number. If I check out if I check out a name that's not there, so XYZ, if I check this, it now tells me that it's not found. So is that what I expected it to? Well, contact info of this returns not found, but when this goes in there, contact phone is now looking for item 3 of that not found. So that's why we're getting that error there. So that's good to know. So maybe that could deal with need a little debugging right there. But let's say that we look for Matt Hill. Now instead of typing his whole name, let's just do TT and press it. So phone number of Matt Hill is returning Matt Hill's whole phone number. So that's all good as well. So then within this unit, it says phone number of the name, phone number of the name. It wants us to put all of that stuff inside this block right here. So if I pull it down, it wants this. If I edit this, it wants us to replace this. Now all of this stuff right here, I don't need it because we already have that inside of this contact info. And then contact phone looks for the third item of that contact info. So I don't need that here. Now search text, I could just change to name just to be consistent with what the unit is having me do. And instead of reporting not found, they want us to report the contact phone of this. So I'm going to duplicate, drag that in, and it wants us to put that here. And instead of TT, instead of putting an input inside a custom block, it wants us to reference the name. And this now is the single input inside phone number of. So if I apply it and press OK, now if I put BA for Barry and press it, it finds Barry's number. If I put AT, which is part of the string of Matt, it now finds Matt's number. Or if I put OP, that's part of Hope, it now finds the number for Barry Hope. This was the last part of page 4 of Lab 2. The curriculum has been brought to you by Beauty and Joy of Computing in association with UC Berkeley, also the National Science Foundation, EDC, and the SEP program at the New York City Department of Education.